I'm gonna give you a story. Oh, blueberry for a bit of fun. Blueberry.
I know.
Oh, man, it's done. I'm hungry for ice. No, I'm not hungry for the mouth. I need the.
Yeah, be a bigger one.
Okay. Huh? Yeah, yeah, I have.
Peanut butter is doubtful.
Yeah. Unless it has the peanut. Okay, beautiful, amen. Okay. We're continuing to build, right? We spoke yesterday about Netilat Yadayim and about Tum'ah, about the concept of Tum'ah and how the Tum'ah can become a blocker, a major wall in terms of a person's awareness, emotional capacity, intellectual capacity, spiritual growth, all of the above. And we spoke about in depth, we spoke about it in different areas in terms of what brings on Tum'ah. And we mentioned that the Tum'ah that sets in on a person's body, the Tum'ah sets in on the whole body at night, but we hold that the Tum'ah enters and exits through the hands and feet, and therefore, when the hands are clean, although we used to generally in the past require both hands and feet, but now we hold that if the hands are the water is poured over the hands at least 3 times, then that removes the Tum'ah from the whole body, and the person's now back to a place where he or she can connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, connect to himself and grow. So that's why the Netilat Yadayim is something that we want to be doing as early as possible. Good. Mark, you're on it? Okay. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, hands up, up. We like to spread our fingers because we believe that that's a way to send and receive spiritually. While our hands are up, we say the Berachah, then we dry our hands. Now,
But what's the reason of the different?
alternate.
Yeah. What's the Tum'ah jumps? Is that it or no?
I don't know another one. What's that? Say again?
Is the Tum'ah, do we wash differently than normally, like one because the
Yeah.
Tum'ah jumps from one to, or is there any special?
I'm not sure why we don't go 1, 2, 3.
Yeah,
1,
like
2,
when
3.
we do.
I'm not sure. I never thought about it. It's a beautiful question. I have to check. Very nice question. Why do we go this way and not this way? I'm not sure. All right, we'll look that one up. Very nice question. Okay, so we're now positioning ourselves to move into the day. Here, Debbie, so take. Okay, I don't have another step. Okay. Once we remove the Tum'ah, we said that, sorry, my camera's in. Okay, once we remove the Tum'ah, we said now we have the capacity to access all of the information that's been downloaded to us that night. So we hold that at least 1, if not 2 parts of the Neshama break off and go up to the heavens. We know that the heavens, so to speak, are overwhelmingly an intellectual, boundless intellectual place. So what is HaKadosh Baruch Hu overwhelmingly? If we could say he's anything, hard to say he's anything in our language, but he's absolute intellect, he's absolute knowledge of everything that ever was, that ever will be, that ever could be, and then some. So at nights, we're given the opportunity, part of us, to break off and go up into that zone and just gather knowledge, gather insight, gather clarity, right? So now we reaffirmed who we are by saying the Modeh Ani, we reclaimed some of our sense of self-love and confidence and optimism by listing 5 fabulous facts, right? Every morning you want to list 5 fabulous facts. We removed any tum'ah. And by the way, the launch point for all of this, as we also mentioned, is a Kiryat Shema al Mitah, the Shema that we say the night before to remove any lingering guilt or any baggage or anything like that. So now we're ready to do great things. We're ready to charge forward in our lives to build clarity, confidence. So at this point, we sit down 5-10 minutes, pencil in hand, and we remind ourselves of 3 questions or issues in our lives. 3 issues, 2-3 issues. Now, what I hope to achieve this with my son. I hope to build that with my spouse, in my chesed project, in my business.
This is apart from writing down the thoughts that are in your head first thing in the morning.
This is that.
Oh, this is that.
Beautiful.
So now you're, okay.
I'm qualifying. Beautiful. I'll tell you why. The reason I liked the person to ask the questions is because we need little tools. We need little
Triggers.
triggers. Perfect. We need triggers
Awareness.
to pull it out. We're not used to it. There'll be a time when you won't have to ask the question, right? But for now, we're not used to it. So we need to prompt. We need a prompt. We need a trigger, right, Jeffrey? Good. We need a prompt. We need a trigger. So we just start to focus on the key issues, things we'd like to achieve, something we'd like to think about more in detail. We had a brief idea, and now we need its legs. We need to blow it up. We need to give it all kinds of details and furtherance. And so this is a great time to do that. Okay, the neshama is back. It's ready. It has all the information. And it's, as we mentioned, it's either I record it or I lose it. Because it's not accessible anymore 2-3 hours into the day. And so you got,
Life gets cluttered.
yeah, exactly. So you write it down, you'll own it, you'll be amazed by it. Again, it may take a day, a week, 3 weeks to start the flow. It shouldn't take that long, but one time you write a sentence, one time you'll write 10 pages, literally. Okay, beautiful, beautiful. Okay, great. Now, let's go to the Asher Yatzar, next page. In order to own the Asher Yatzar, which is, we're on the back page now, page 2. In order to own the Asher Yatzar, which is one of the most important berachot that we will ever make at all, is to understand some of the key terms that some of us touched on, but we're going to go back and review them. First of all, the term chokhmah. What does the term chokhmah mean?
Wisdom, knowledge, connecting the dots.
Beautiful. Knowing a lot about a lot. Chokhmah, Jeffrey, knowing a lot about a lot and being able to connect the dots. So there are people who are specialists. They know a lot about a little, a mumche, and that's a very nice thing. There are people who know a lot about a lot.
A little about a lot too.
Or a little about a lot, right? Good. Then there are people who know a lot about a lot, but can't connect the dots. To know a lot about a lot, you have to have that curiosity, that willingness to learn new things, to prove something wrong, to see that something that you thought was right for 40 years doesn't make sense anymore. You have to be willing to do that. So that's chokhmah. So we're not specialists, we're not generalists. We're generalists with a lot of knowledge about a lot of things, with the intellectual courage to connect them. So I learned something in my Chumash class, and I'm very comfortable bringing that to my business. I learned something in my Mesilat Yesharim class, and I'm very comfortable applying that to my relationships. I flow between these areas with no boundaries, with no qualifications. Good? So.
Question in that, Chokhmah, in that sentence, is it Hashem's Chokhmah or is it the Chokhmah he's giving us?
In this case, it's Hashem's.
Okay.
Good. The term Yatzar. Remember the term Yatzar? The term Yatsar is a refined point of creation. Look at the word Yatsar. Asher Yatsar et Adam, who refined. In English, the word is refined. Who refined, you see it?
Fine tuned, polished up.
Polished,
My
fine
secret
tuned.
says form,
No, it's not correct.
fine.
Not correct. It's refined. And I changed it, actually. I changed it from the English to refine. The Yotzer is a Yotzer is an artisan. It's to refine. So what are we saying here? We're saying we're blessing God with whose chokhmah, with whom his chokhmah went ahead and refined man to have all this complication. So let's talk about it. To refine means what? What would you say to refine means? To polish. Therefore what? Beautiful, David. Therefore what? The entity, the element was formed.
It was
It was this-
unpolished.
Huh?
It was proved, it was unpolished.
Perfect. Great. That's bara, amar, asa is each one is a further stage of formation, but the entity remains unpolished, unrefined, beautiful. It exists, but it's not beautiful. It's not artisanal. It's not. Yeah, those.
Not finished.
Is
Not
this the final touch?
It's the final
This is the
touch.
final-
Perfect. The final touch, right? So what does HaKadosh Baruch Hu do as our final touch? See, it doesn't say Hashem bara et ha'adam. It said God took his chokhmah, that fantastic wisdom, where all areas are interconnected, and there's an absolute flow between all of the areas, and he went back and he refined the human body to have what? Unbelievable. Meaning what? Wait, before I get to the however. Wait, before I get there, 1 second. Before we get started.
Was it mean physically or does it mean?
Of course, yeah, right now it means physically, yeah. But what are we saying here?
We're all clogged up.
Huh?
We're all clogged up.
We were never clogged up.
Back. There are times that we weren't the way we were right now.
What, honey? What?
There were times where we weren't the way we are right now, and Hashem
Exactly.
created something that wasn't completely complete.
Correct.
So this was an afterthought?
Correct.
This was an afterthought.
Not an
Hashem
afterthought.
created something which wasn't
Yeah, we
perfect.
couldn't live without
it.
Came back
Can't
and.
live without it.
Don't use the word afterthought.
But you can't physically.
Well, with this, it was an improvement, beautiful. With what? With chokhmah, beautiful, and therefore what? If an artisan, if a great Italian sculptor, right, he goes back and he puts a handful of additional touches, right? Those are the things that are gonna take the piece and put it totally over the top, right?
Puts it in that perfection.
That's
Perfection.
right,
It's the next
beautiful. So what did he do? He incredibly complicates our bodies with these little sinews and caplets and whatever, all these millions, tens of millions of things, right? In order to make it infinitely more complicated, in order for, no, we could live within a simpler way. That's the point, David. It was simpler. He went and he made it,
Made it more
it made it more complicated.
But then he came up with the solution to make it
So
work.
what the point being,
So let's go. Why? That's what I'm saying.
why would he complicate? our
Why would he
lives?
complicate it? You can't ignore the words that the rabbis brought. They didn't say Asher asa et adam chokhmah, that he created, he formed man with chokhmah. They say Yatzar et adam chokhmah. He went back and he finished it off and he further refined and he added the complexity.
To
Why?
further challenge and compromise us so that we need to go and thank him, say this prayer? I mean, is
I'm
he
not
looking for
sure.
more gratitude? Is he looking for?
I don't know if he's looking for more gratitude. Maybe he's looking to inspire the human being to
We
his
recognize
great-
how great Hashem is.
Right, inspire the human being to his greatness. Maybe he's looking to inspire the human being to the human being's greatness, that all these microsecond things work well. Maybe he's looking to inspire us to that also. Maybe he's looking to inspire us to take care of this beautiful thing that we've been given. But there's, in any case, we have to hold, like Noah said, HaKadosh Baruch Hu went back and did a major retinkering, a major refinement. Okay,
Creating
In the
more
body or
professions
now
for the
in the
Jewish people to
Chokhmah?
become doctors.
that's right. There you go. That's really the bottom line. Because he
Why didn't he
wanted
go
a
go
ton
back?
of Jewish doctors.
Why didn't we say go back, he went back? Why don't we just say he just finished?
I'm telling you why. It's the word Yetzad.
But it's never,
Refined could mean the last touches of his project. So to
One
speak.
thing, if he did it without refining it, would it have been done? The answer is yes.
Maybe not as good as he wanted it,
Exactly, but the answer is yes. Yeah, Mark?
but it's never finished.
but we can still.
It's never finished.
Right, there's more
good.
refinement to go.
That's true. It's never finished. That's right. It's absolutely never finished. And the body in particular is constantly refining itself, right?
Right.
But the state of complexity that the body is in, that we're making note of when we say this beracha after we go to the bathroom, is a revision, an overhaul that HaKadosh Baruch Hu does after the fact in order to refine, to sensitize, to complicate, give the opportunity for more Jewish people to be different types of doctors, as Joey suggested. Good? Okay, no, let's look at the beracha inside now. What's the Hashem Elkeinu Me'Hanam Asher Yatzad Et Adam B'Chochma, right? You Yotzer, you refined us with this spectacular wisdom, interconnecting everything, many layers. Uberabo nekavim, chalim. What does that mean? Openings, passageways, galui v'yadua lifnei kisei kivodecha. What does that mean? Galui v'yadua.
Clearly within him,
Huh?
within that body.
What does galui mean? Galui means it's absolutely known, right? The galot, right? It's absolutely known. Yeah, Jeffrey, you with me? Galoi means absolutely known. But what does v'yadua mean? It means I can relate to it. Da'at means I can relate to it. Something could be known, but I can't get there. I can't relate to it. I can't understand it. So it's galoi, it's known. V'yadua, it's something I can bring to me, I can own, right? Right? Lifnei kisei kivodecha, as we stand before you. She'im yisatem echad mehem, or im yifatech echad mehem, אי-אפשר להתקיים אפילו שעה אחת. What does that mean? If one were to close in an untimely way, one were to open in an untimely way, it would be impossible to להתקיים. What does that mean? It doesn't say לקיים, it means להתקיים.
Exist.
Right, beautiful. It means for that thing to exist or for anything else to exist. It means it would be an absolute domino effect. It doesn't, the word likayem would have said to exist. The hitkayem means for that to exist and for everything around it to exist. So it's a effect, and it's an effect as well as a cause. So if this didn't work, it would have compounding impact on everything else. Okay? Afilu sha'a achat. When we see the word sha'ah in a context like this, what does sha'ah mean?
1 second. Not
1 second. Beautiful job. A sha'ah in general modern Hebrew,
It's the hour.
means an hour. Beautiful. A sha'ah in rabbinic language means a second, right? If any of these things went wrong, the person couldn't exist, would be gone. It could be gone in a minute. Right? Therefore, what is our perspective about this? We have to draw, before we finish the beracha, we have to draw an overall perspective about this and health in general. What is the perspective?
We need God for every second of our lives.
That's right. We need it for every second of our lives. In other words,
God can turn off the clock anytime.
that's right. What we want to be looking at is that there's a switch that has to be switched to on every second. right? The switch is not on, like we mentioned this a couple of days ago. Switch is not on until it's off. The switch has to be pushed back to on.
The default setting is off and Hashem is constantly turning it on.
Right, very good.
But there's perfect certainty, right? It's not just
That's right.
So it's.
No room for error.
Huh?
No
There's no
room
room
for
for
error
error. There really isn't, right?
on his part.
Right, yeah.
For us.
Yeah. Now, what is Rofeh called Basar Umafli La'asot? What does Rofeh mean? Heal, right? So what tense is it written in?
Present.
Beautiful, David. It's written in present tense. Rofeh called Basar. What does that mean?
Continuous.
Constantly, ongoing, right? It means that God is constantly, like we said, he's flicking the switch constantly. All right, so we're putting it all in present tense. So God didn't set the system up good and let it run. He's engaged in it constantly, right? That's very important perspective. Umafli la'asot. What does that mean? What is pele? What is a
Wonder.
pele? Wonder, beautiful. And what are you doing here, Jeff? What are we saying?
The maker of wonders means that you can.
Huh?
You do anything you want, beyond anything that's logical or.
He's constantly creating these wondrous things. Mafli la'asot means these are new wonders. The wonders grow. It's not the wonders that were. It's not the wonders that happened when the body was formed or created. It's the wonders that grow. It's the ongoing wonders.
But don't take it for granted that everything is going to be happening on its own as it has in the past, because you need to have this constant
Right.
replenishment from Hashem
That's right.
every second that it's new.
Right, the continuation is as miraculous as the creation.
Beautiful,
Say that again?
beautiful,
Say that
grand
again.
slam. The continuation is as miraculous as the creation. Beautifully said. That's exactly what we're saying.
And you have to be aware of that.
And there you go. You know, David
Right.
Shammah, alav shalom, I don't know if you remember. him. Okay, when he used to say that this was the most important thing in the world. Asher Yaseh B'Racha. We were teenagers, we know what he was talking about, right? But in fact, he's not wrong. May not be the most important thing in the world, the most important mitzvah, but it's got to be right up there.
You're reminded of it 6-8 times a day.
That's right, that's right. And the point being that being that we're reminded of it fairly often, we have to take the time to say it, to really say it, because this is a life-changing beracha. This awareness will change a person's life. And so when a person really pauses and says that God went back to create the further complexity, to create the split-second preciousness of life, and that the miraculousness is ongoing, you live your life different, you think different. Your day is just different, right? And so now you see very often, which we never saw when we were kids or whatever, until maybe 10 years ago, 5 years ago, that they put the Asher Yatzar up all over the place. And it's a very good idea.
And people are using it.
Huh?
And people are using it.
Yeah, and they use
Not
it,
enough to
yeah.
put it up.
Right. Yeah, so this is a very different state of awareness. The person who says it with kavanah is going to be in a very different place than the person who doesn't. And some of the core terms are here, rofeh kol basar, right? It's an ongoing thing. Whatever HaKadosh Baruch Hu did, he does. It's not that he made us healthy, he's constantly making us healthy. So this is pivotal, exceptional, should be said slowly, should be said with real mindset and kavanah. Okay? Thoughts, questions on this one, or okay? Mark, you good?
Good, thanks.
The next beracha is very important. The next beracha is a blown up version of the Modeh Ani. Right? Remember, in the Modeh Ani, we're thanking God for giving us back not our bodies, but our souls, right? To be reminded that we have the capacity to break through the constructs of reality, to move beyond it, to think, to dream, and so on. Good, David? All right, now we're going to see it in the full form. Elokai, neshama shenatata bi tehora, right? The neshama that you gave me, right? Just gave it back to me, is tahor. What does tahor mean?
Pure.
Beautiful. It doesn't have any of that tuma stuff, right? Got rid of it. Beautiful. Okay. Ata berata. We remember that word. Bara means to create with thought. You created it. Atayat sarata. What did you do, Jeffrey? You went back and you refined it. Yatsad. It's the same word as above, right? Ata barata. Atayat sarta. So again, same system. God created the neshama in a certain way, and then he goes back and he refines it further. And we should talk about that. Maybe
Is is every day your neshama getting?
So let's see. Beautiful, Joe. Let's see. Excellent question. Let's see where it works. Ata nefachta bi. What does that mean? Ata nefachta bi.
Put it back in, and you get it
Out.
back, you return it to me.
Breathe it.
Yeah, you breathed
Oh,
it
you
into
breathe
me,
it back to me.
right? Vayipach ba'apav nishmat chayim, right? The Chumash. He breathes it into us. Atam shamra b'kirbi. What does that mean? Atam shamra b'kirbi.
Keep it going.
Huh?
Keep it going.
Keep it going. But what does it lishmor mean?
Watch over.
Protect it.
Huh? Watch over you, protect it, so it stays in front of me, inside of me. This is very important. Where we mentioned this just briefly as a side point, but atam shamra. Yeah, so do it. The God's commitment to us is not only to give us the good, it's not only to give us the good even when we don't deserve the good, it's about giving us the good even if we don't deserve the good, and then when he gives it to us, he makes a commitment to protect it so it stays with us. It's a very big thing, because let's say somebody gives somebody $100, right? And the person may not be qualified to spend that $100 properly or to manage that $100 properly. Guy says, I did my job, right? And he did, right? The person asked him for help, he gave him the help. Okay, but the person doesn't know how to manage that. HaKadosh Baruch Hu's perspective is, I'm going to give you the help and I'm going to protect you so that you don't squander the help. Now, sometimes people just do it anyway. Sometimes people, God doesn't say, okay, I'm not going to, tie your hands. You're still living, you're still making choices. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in general terms, is going to protect the good that he gives. Okay, hold that as a rule, because generally speaking, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will protect the good that he gives. Okay, even if he gives something undeserved, he will protect it. So it's very, very important. So Atam Shamna B'Kibi. Now, David, you want to read? V'ata. Pause. What does that mean? Ata'atid l'ta mimeni u'lahachazira bi la'atid lavo. What does that mean? In the future, you will do what?
Take it from me.
He's gonna take it from him,
You're going to take it from me and
eventually get it back when resurrection happens.
okay.
Yeah, no, my son is gonna join.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Hi, how are you?
Time of,
Good morning, honey. What's your name? Ryan? Great to meet you. Okay. Now, you as tall as your father or taller?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, are you really? Great, good to meet you. Where are you? What do you do?
I'm in my order.
Beautiful, great, okay, great. Okay. Ta'atid l'tla mimeni, u'lahachzira bi la'atid lavo. What does it mean? What does it mean? Looking at the Asher Yatzar. Ta'atid l'tla mimeni u'lahachzira bi. What does it mean? You're going to take the soul from me and you're going to return it to me. What are we referencing here?
Essential.
All right, so we're referencing Tchiyat HaMetim, right? This ultimate time
Right.
when the soul and the body are put back together to reach the greatest level that a human being could ever reach, right?
Even though your
So,
soul might be
This is-
returned as a
This is
bird.
when they go back together.
Go back
We're
together.
not talking about what just happened in the morning when you woke up.
Beautiful, beautiful, Jeffrey, beautiful. We're talking about both. This is very important in this bracha. Ata atid litna mimeni tonight. Ulahachazira bi latid lavo tomorrow morning, right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Wild.
And
It's
eventually-
wild,
Huh?
it's wild, because
Past,
my team
present,
is
and
such
future.
a, and now you say,
Past,
it
present,
happens
future.
every night.
It happens every night.
It's
Beautiful.
wild.
Happens every night. That's right. Yeah.
That's considered. That's considered
So you have to maintain, yes, a resurrection of
every
dead.
morning. Is
Every morning. That's right.
A miniature.
That's right.
Like
Yeah,
piece of
that's
your-
right. A version
like
of it.
miniature,
Beautiful. That's
piece of
right. Version of it. Time you're gonna see that everybody in this class is smart. All right, and I'm sure you're as well if you're here. Avatsira bi latila bo, meaning every morning, meaning ultimately, and what else might it mean? According to some of the rabbis, what does it mean? You take it from me, you return it to me ultimately. You take it from me, you return it to me each day. Beautiful. And what's the interim one?
You purify it, you clean
You
it.
purify it, good. It becomes purified. I'm talking about how.
Continuously
But-
you're doing it.
Meaning what?
Continuously. It's
Yes,
happening
Gilgul
continuously.
Neshamot. According to some opinions, this beracha is also referencing Gilgul Neshamot, which means what? Which means that, according to many opinions, and the Neshama will come back a number of times. Now, it's a fascinating
In
thing.
another body.
In another
person.
body.
That's a
Now,
whole other subject.
it's a whole nother subject. We'll touch on a few elements of it to tease it out a little bit. We generally hold as far. Some people don't hold with Gilgul Neshamot altogether. They just don't. They say-
Minority or majority?
No, some, I don't,
Minority.
I don't, yeah, I would call it, I would say from my perspective, it's a minority. I wholeheartedly believe in it. But some people say, one shot, you do the best you can, and you refine your neshama, and that's your eternity.
Face the consequences.
Yeah, but many of the opinions, and I would suggest the majority, as you probably hold, Jeffrey. The majority hold that there are a number of iterations where we keep refining and keep refining. And the rabbis say that Shemuel Navi was the Gilgul of Moshe Rabbeinu, and we have many of these reincarnation references, right? As we've talked about. Ruth was the Gilgul of Tamar, who was the Gilgul of the daughter of Lot, right?
Was the neshama aware that they? Because
Beautiful,
what's the point?
beautiful,
It's
beautiful,
the separate entity.
beautiful, beautiful. So now the question is,
Here we go.
here we go. Here we go. How aware is the neshama? Question: how aware is the neshama? There are present day scientific related studies which have enabled people through hypnosis to go back to past lives. Right, to go back to past lives. In fact, there's something called regression hypnosis, which and I only read about it. I don't know much about it, but regression hypnosis, where a psychologist is dealing with an issue in a person, let's say, and he can't break through. Giving the person all the standard type of ways to grow, to move beyond the issue, can't move beyond the issue. So what do? They take the person back. So there were two attempts at this. Brian Weiss was really the pioneer that I know about this. They take you back to the womb, and because the perspective is that what went on in the womb may have a long time effect on the person's mental and emotional health. How the baby was looked at, what was going on in the mother's heart, the dynamic between spouses, makes sense, right? Makes sense that the baby could have internalized something. So they found some success with that in helping people. Then they said, well, certain people still weren't reachable. So what did they do? They went back to a previous life and they had the person tell over this story or that. And the trauma or the experience that happened was what was planted in the neshama and what had to be addressed because it was carried from one life to the other. In other words, the pain or the failure or the disappointment or whatever it might have been in the previous life came with the neshama into this life in order to be dealt with, in order to be built from, in order to be built from. Now, and by addressing that from then, they were able to free the person from that issue now. Okay, it's a fascinating area of science and psychology. It's fascinating. Is it going to determine whether we hold by this or not? No, it just happens to be fascinating. They also found another interesting thing. They found babies speaking a foreign language. It's 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, an American 4-year-old speaking French. What is going on here?
That having
Zero. An American babe, 3, 4, 5-year-old speaking a foreign language. Never learned the language before. Okay, which means possibly that the neshama brought that with them. So to think that to accept Gilgul Neshamot, you could accept it or not. It's fine. Yeah.
Something's confusing me. So the neshama that Hashem gives us, puts into a human or into a body, I guess, is pure. Starts off pure, and it's only because of the physical body that the soul becomes impure, so to speak. I mean, it's only because of our desires and our physical whatevers that we put blemishes on the soul, right? It's not the soul's fault.
And therefore,
So my point being that we start off with a pure soul. So I'm not understanding how.
okay, but beautiful. It goes like this. So Chaim, chime in whenever you want. The point is very clear in God's mind, so to speak, and we're touching on this in the later class, is that Hakadosh Baruch Hu knows absolutely clearly, obviously, that when he takes the soul and he puts it into the body, the soul is going to be compromised, right?
Right.
And the Midrash says, many Midrashim say, that the Melachim challenged him, said, what are you doing this for? Let's keep it all up here. The soul will never be compromised by the bodily issues, challenges, desires, whatever it might be. Keep it all up here, keep the Torah up here, and let's go. There's no impediments. Now, Kadosh Baruch Hu says, for what? What's the point?
No
Beautiful, what's the point? So the idea is crystal clear, that the soul is coming into a non-soul environment, that the physical issues, challenges, opportunities will absolutely enrich the soul, or reduce or damage the soul.
Can it enrich the soul?
Absolutely
The soul starts
enrich the
off
soul.
pure.
Absolutely enrich the soul.
diamond.
That's why I made it a point of saying, it will
So
absolutely
enrich the
enrich the
soul.
soul. When you say a beracha on something physical, you're uplifting the physical and you're enriching the soul.
So the soul is,
The soul is not stagnant either. The
Right,
same way
okay,
the
gotcha,
soul
yeah.
can be blemished, right? If the soul can be
Right.
blemished,
It can also
soul
be
can be
enhanced.
enriched. But what do you mean? How can the soul be enriched by something that goes on in the physical plan? Well, that's exactly the point.
So you're saying the neshama is aware of previous trauma?
Yes.
But yet it's not.
According to that opinion, yeah.
The subconscious.
the soul has,
So how can it help?
It could be the subconscious also. Beautiful. Yeah, Mark.
the soul is never pure. And it always has to come back into some form to continuing to get more pure. I don't know if I'm using the right words or not.
No, you're using the right word. It started out pure. It started out as absolutely pure. When it was dispensed,
Adam.
the original time, or maybe this time, when it was dispensed from heaven, right?
First time.
It was absolutely pure, right? At that point.
Then it came into somebody's body, and
Right.
that life affects that person's soul. The soul then has to continue to evolve. If it's
Yep.
not continuing to evolve in that person's body, it's going to go to the next person's body until it evolves more and
Right.
until
It's not, so it's not the next person's body. That's very important. The neshama is what it is, and it's always the same entity. The soul is the soul is the soul, right? So it goes into a different body,
Mhm.
but it's the same soul, right? So it's
What is
effectively
unaware of
Huh?
what happened.
at
before.
this at that point. At this point, it's unaware.
It's
Unaware.
been cleaned.
At this
yeah,
point, it's
cleaned, so to
unaware.
speak.
How can you expect something that's unaware of something to do something about it? It's
Beautiful.
not aware.
Fantastic, fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's unaware, then what do you want? If unaware, then what do you want? Beautiful.
Right.
So Hakadosh Baruch Hu sets up certain very exciting things. The most important of which is din, is judgment. And we say the greatest, the most merciful thing that God did is give us a day of judgment. Why? Because on the day of judgment, we confront all of those things that we'd like to fix in ourselves. Right? Okay, we read the Bidur, right? There's umpteen things on it, right? There's this and that and that and that. Overwhelming. There's so many, it's overwhelming. But what we understand, or how we should approach all of this, is as follows. Let's say somebody lists the things he wants to fix in his life, right? Generally speaking, when you go year to year to year, it's the same things. And if it's not the same thing exactly, that a person stumbled in this or wasn't able to achieve that, it's very similar, right? So what is a person's job? Is to drill down beyond the symptoms, the expressions of all of these things that he wants to fix, and get to the core issues. So for example, somebody says, you know what? I didn't treat my wife nicely in this way. I didn't treat my friends nicely in that way. That's not a problem. That's a symptom. It's a symptom of insecurity, anger, fear. No. So what do? We say, okay, the top line expression is that to treat, why did I not treat that person well? Why was I short-tempered in this respect? Why was I short-tempered with these three people? Why was I insecure to a point where I couldn't go out with that girl? Or I didn't want to take that fabulous job? Why? Why? Because there's something going on deep inside. The deep inside is what the neshama issue is that has to be addressed.
But Hashem's setting a
So,
table
you know,
differently for different people. So for instance,
Exactly.
when I'm born into a family, I didn't choose family. I didn't choose whether it's dysfunctional or functional or whatever it is. So until you're even aware, you've already been impacted,
Good.
right? So now it's almost like the table's been set by Hashem, say, okay, now here's your circumstances.
That's right.
Now what are you gonna do about it?
That's right.
You play with the hand you're dealt with.
That's right.
Right,
And you know
right,
what,
right.
Jeffrey, where does the hand come from? It comes from the
But that's-
way you built
Hashem set
in
that
the
up.
last, let's say, 4 iterations. And this is the shape of your neshama now. These are its assets. These are its weaknesses, right? So, fine, when you come to Yom Kippur soon, right? And good health and so on, Rosh Hashanah. If you think about it, and I used to do this as an exercise, God willing, we'll be here, we'll do it. I used to do this as an exercise with people. Read the Vidur, very good, read the Vidur, okay? Circle the 5, 10 things, huh?
Relate to it.
Relate to it, circle the
Yeah.
5, 10 things that are your core issues. Now, let's talk about what brings you to these issues.
Mhm.
What brings you to the issues are the neshama issues. Oh, a person is insecure. A person is frightened. A person is angry. That causes X. So you know how they say, they used to make a joke, when we were kids, that, people used to get on the radio New Year's Eve and make all kinds of New Year's resolutions, right? And then the disc jockey would come back on a month later, call the same person, and they'd say they never stayed with it. You know why? Because they were talking up here. They weren't talking in the real source of things. So if I have the courage to address the source of my issues, right? Why do I feel this about this? Then I can now understand how this iteration of my neshama is tooled and what my primary issues are to fix. Okay, assuming that the neshama has been around before, let's hold with that. Good. It brings with it certain assets certain liabilities, certain strengths, certain pain, right?
Predisposition.
Right, a predisposition, excellent. What's my delet, what's my way in to figure those out? The things that I do. The things that I do. So what do people do? They focus on the things that they do. They don't focus on where they come from. If I was able to figure out that the reason that I'm short-tempered with these types of people is because fundamentally I have a sense of insecurity about those types of people, then I'd be able to fix it. So the neshama brings with it certain strengths in certain areas that still have to be fixed, and those are the things that I'm supposed to be addressing.
So subject yourself to your own self-therapy.
That's exactly right.
Mhm.
That's exactly
How
right.
are you supposed to do that?
Huh?
How are you supposed to do that? How do you dig deep? I mean, like you're saying, the guy took him back to the womb.
Huh?
No, people are not capable. of
So I'll
figuring
tell you,
out.
I'll tell you like this, yeah? I'll tell you like this, right? Let's spend a few minutes. Okay, so now let's say a person.
He's gonna
He's gonna hypnotize.
Let's say a person's issue is that he's short-tempered. I'm gonna, let me give you a simple one. Let's say a person's issue is that he can't move his life forward. Right?
That's a simple one. Okay.
Yeah, that's right. Sure. A person is, hi, Ed, good morning. A person is, can't move his life forward, he's stuck.
Stop.
Person is insecure, he's stuck, right? What do you want to do with that person?
Motivate.
Right, but if you motivate them up here, you're dealing with only the surface stuff, right? What you want to do is you want to go down here and you want to understand what's going on and you want to give them the tools to come back up here. I can
That's
tell
the
you,
question.
okay, good. There are tons and tons of young adults and adults that I've met over the years, right, in our community, who could achieve so much more. They could have so much more. They're afraid, they're insecure. And so what do people do? They throw opportunities in front of them. Okay, let's everybody be a real estate broker. What are you talking about? Mark, Joe, Bob, and Susan were all made to be real estate brokers? What are you talking about? That's our version of an Uber driver, is a real estate broker today. What should we be doing with Mark, Joe, Bob, and Steve, and Susan, whatever their name? What we should be doing is we should help them identify each one of their core strengths, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives everyone core innate strengths. Everybody has it. And the neshama brought with it core innate strengths. You can be X. You can be X, but you feel lousy about something or you're afraid about something. So first we identify a person's core strengths, right? Everybody has them. Everybody has them, right? And then we go and we build this. We build the platform of self-love and self-confidence. And now, instead of somebody rushing off to work in something that they may not be told to do, which most people do, we've taken a step back. We've identified a person's core strengths. Everybody has core strengths.
Everybody needs this.
Everybody needs this.
There's probably nothing more frustrating and painful than looking back, missed opportunity.
That's right.
Right? You live with that. There's no, right. It's so, and knowing that you could have done it, but you were scared to do it. Right?
That's
There's
right.
nothing.
That's right.
It's pain.
Could have, should have, would have, all that. There should never be a could have, should have, would have in any human being, anybody. And what we should be teaching in our schools, first and foremost, is this. Now, you want to take math and science and X and Torah and put it on top of this? That's fine. But this comes first. Okay, this comes first. A, what are a person's core strengths? Everybody has core strengths. I'll tell you something, Joe's point. You give me 100 kids in our community, greatest community in the world, most blessed, most privileged, got it. I would wake 100 kids up in the middle of the night. I would tell you 90 wouldn't be able to articulate their core strengths. 90. Maybe you wouldn't, but most people wouldn't. Okay, why not?
Ricky, have a good day. I have to go.
You too, Mark, feel better.
Thanks.
What time is it? I watch it.
7:46.
Okay, so we'll go another 5 minutes and then we'll switch over. The neshama, every God gives everybody core strengths. The neshama is tooled a certain way and is carrying certain pain and areas of disappointment and struggle and certain fantastic qualities. Our jobs as parents, as educators, is to identify these, the pains and the areas, and to identify the core strengths and to build them. That's the
So- Rabbi, go back to my point, the Shama comes back, it has its past history,
right.
right? And it's also been put into the circumstances of life, right? And a human being in a certain circumstances of, that they grow up in, right? And so that then becomes, it's everything from the past, and now the circumstances that have overlaid on it, right? Of now. So are the circumstances being done, is there a reason why that neshama is being put into this situation?
100,000.
Set it up for what it needs to do again.
100,000%. I'm gonna make it a drop more complicated. Your Hebrew name is Hayim, right? Beautiful. Jeffrey, what's your Hebrew name?
Yom Tov.
Yom Tov. Huh? Okay. Hebrew names are not a coincidence. They're never a coincidence. Never. What's your Hebrew name? Yosef? The only thing you could be is Yosef. You can't be a Reuben. My Hebrew name is Reuben. I can't be
Why
Yosef.
would I want to be something that I'm not?
Because, I'll tell you why, because the name Yosef brings with it baggage and opportunity.
Right.
Good, excellent. So a Yosef needs to understand the following. A Yosef needs to understand that he was built to be a leader. Yosef is built to be a leader. A Yosef is built to be a Sadiq, which means that he understands his strengths, he identifies them, and he ventures out with them. Yosef was meant to understand things on a level that many of the people around him probably don't, with a long-term view. So when HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives a certain neshama a name, it's absolutely never a coincidence. Okay, the name Hayim is a very, very incredible name. It's an incredible name. And when we reference the term Hayim in the context of Torah, we're talking about Olam Hazeh and Olam Haba. So somebody that has the Hebrew name Hayim, I would say, I don't know you at all, but you should have a very heightened neshama. You should have very heightened neshama. You should be pretty sensitive. I don't know, you're a young man, but you should have the capacity to look very far in the future and many other things. That's Hayim. Yom Tov is a totally different persona. Yom Tov means altogether different things. It's Yom Tov is different than the day of the week. The word Tov is perfection, right? It means you have different opportunities and different challenges. You will be charged in a different way than Yosef to further certain things in the world, because the term Tov demands furtherance and progress. And the word Yom is a whole nother thing that we should discuss. So names are a portal to the soul. A name is a portal to the soul. If you want to understand what your neshama is, you should study your name. Now you're saying, how do I know? I bring these strengths and liabilities. How would I know? You can know. So open now today. There's gazillion books and read about the name Yom Tov. And what do the terms Yom mean? And what does the term Tov mean? And when you put together, what does it mean? Read how we use the term Chayim. B'chayta b'chayim. Chayim is a gigantic word. It doesn't mean life. It means infinitely more than life. What does it mean? If you were given the name Chayim, you couldn't be a Reuben. And I couldn't be Yosef. And Yosef wasn't perfect. Of course, neither was Reuben or anybody else. So we have to understand where Yosef tripped up. And those are the challenges that we're going to face. I'm very much a Reuben, to the good and otherwise. I'm very much a Reuben. Sometimes I wish I wasn't. But I am.
You don't get to pick and choose.
You don't get to pick. That's right. You don't get to pick. So the name A name is not haphazard. It's not casual. Name David. Okay, David, the little I know of you, dear David, I know a little bit about you since we started working together. You are so much a David. Sometimes when we talk about your life in general, I shudder from how much of a David you are. Now, what you should be doing is you should particularly be studying David Amelech. You should be studying David Amelech. Because if you're not a modern day copy paste, and then I don't know what is, and you can't possibly be anything else but a David. And if you understand David, you will understand the next stages of your life and what you should do. This is all extra. I charge extra for this.
You could be, I could say you could make money doing this. Yeah.
Wants to go out into the world now with this analysis and therapy and try and better your life with a better understanding.
That's exactly what you're supposed to be doing.
Mhm.
That's exactly what you're supposed to be. So if you understand that there's been a number of rounds, we're gonna hold that as Gilgul Neshamot, there's been a number of rounds, right? A, you understand that. B, you understand that your actions are overwhelmingly just surface expressions of the deep stuff that's going on inside. B1, you understand that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave everybody core strength. I'll use myself as an example. I was teaching from when I was 19. I'm 19-year-old teachers. I was teaching 18 and 17-year-olds. That was what I was built to do. It was just that simple. When at the height of my business,
Say not being a retailer,
that's right.
I wasn't.
No, it wasn't. At the height of my business, I was teaching 14 hours a week. And I was getting up 4:30 in the morning and I was working crazy hours, right? And I was teaching 14 hours a week. I set up learning in Conway 40 years ago. Nobody was learning in their offices. There's no such thing. We had a Torah van from Deal Shul.
What?
Huh? No. Rabbi Now.
No.
Yeah, we had a van with Rabbi Nahum 40 years ago. Nobody had Torah buses. This is what my love always was. This is what I was built to do. It took me, and I always did it. I never stopped teaching my whole life, and I never stopped learning my whole life. I finally said, it's time to be true to me. Time to be fully true to me and do what HaKadosh Baruch Hu told me to do and makes me happy and is the tikkun, I believe, of my neshama in this lifetime. Is this the only tikkun, the only improvement and refinement of my neshama? I'm sure not. I know not. But is it a primary one? No question. Everybody has that thing. And you will never be anything but a Yosef. You would never be anything other than Abraham. You would not be. Somebody else's neshama would be that, by the way. In understanding our children, I have Abraham, my boys, right? I have a Mordechai and I have a Michael. They're totally different personalities. They can't be the same personalities because their names are completely different.
You can have two Yosefs.
That's
that are
right.
Different also.
That's right, but you're not. You're different, but you're
Well,
not.
Well,
Your core
It's
opportunities
the same as.
are overwhelmingly the same. He brings with him the specifics of the lives that he's traversed. He brings with him those which were different than your neshama experience, let's say over the last couple of thousand years. You bring with you different experiences. So your approach will be to different things, but the overall, the global, the strategic roadmap is the same.
What's the impact of the constellation, so to speak, or the impact of the, what they call them, from the, we're born under different signs, right?
Yeah.
That has also an impact on the soul
Definitely has an impact.
as well, so that's a refinement, another refinement.
But dear Chaim, I want to say this to you at this point. How old are you? 17. Beautiful. So what you should start to get comfortable with is these are my core strengths. I have core strengths. Yeah. And you should be very proud of them, and very comfortable with them, and start to get, be proud, be very proud of them, be very strong with them. And based on them, set your sights very high. And that's the system that everybody should have at every stage in their life, particularly when you're a young adult and deciding to build your life.
This is the self-esteem piece.
Huh?
If you focused on your core strengths, then you feel strong.
I'll tell you one more quick story. I told these guys a story. When I was teaching in Shadet Zion many years ago, so class grew and so on. And one night we had like 400 or 500 kids in the dorm, young adults in the dorm. Some of the guys, like my son-in-law, which you remember, and I asked them, who in this room thinks they're unconditionally great? Who in the room thinks they're unconditionally? No hands went up. I asked it again. You have to really straight
Wow.
with that. Who knows that they're unconditionally great? Who thinks they're unconditionally great? Nobody feels that. Finally, after 3-4 rounds, I raised both my hands. I said, I'm unconditionally great. Everybody. looked down. The reality is, we are all unconditionally great. And that doesn't mean we're perfect, but we're unconditionally great. And when HaKadosh Baruch Hu built us, right, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu built us, in Tov, in Salmo, he made us unconditionally great. Now, let's do it just very quick, and this is a very big discussion. Let me tell you just very quickly. What's the difference between someone who understands their inherent greatness and someone who doesn't? Naim, what would you say? What's the difference? And the difference is like,
Depends on the world of difference.
because the person who doesn't acknowledge their unconditional greatness, when they have a good day, they're up here. When they have a less than good day, they're down here.
Right.
When they have a good day, they're up here. When they have a less than good day, so they come back here, right? Good. Now, let's say a fabulous girl walks into this young man's life when he's down here. Because the day could be a month or 6. Let's say a fabulous potential Nasib walks into his life down here. What's gonna happen? He's gonna miss it.
Might screw up.
Either
Might
he's
screw up.
gonna pass on the.
He's probably gonna pass.
Or he's gonna be inspired to go and
God
get it.
willing, they'll be inspired, but very often people pass because they don't have the self-confidence. They say, I'm not good enough for her. Right? I'm not, or let's say a great
Or he's
business
gonna behave in
opportunity.
such a way that's gonna
It will
scare her
blow
away.
her off. Or let's say there's a great business opportunity comes into a person's life when he's down here. He's not gonna take the opportunity because he doesn't have the self-love and self-confidence to do it. If someone holds that he's unconditionally great, doesn't mean he's perfect, but unconditionally great, then
Less of
there's
a-
little blips on the scene, just like
Well,
that.
you're above the water levels. You
You're
can see.
always above the,
Yeah,
well,
Watch underwater.
little blips on the screen. There's never this kind of thing going on. So all of these things speak to how the neshama is built. Fine. Hey, yeah. Is that, yeah.
This is a class in itself,
Yes.
Yeah, it is.
right? Yeah.
All right. Whoever can say, we're gonna do Mesilat Yesharim.
What was the word of Bernard then?
Yotzer, Yatzar.
There you go.
There we go. All right,
That-
Chuck.
that- that-
Great, great.
Have a good day.
Have a great day. Joe. Okay, perfect. Okay.